Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and I'm in a good mood because we're talking about 2020's Game of the Year, Marvel Avengers. I mean, come on. Everyone loved this game. Last month when I reviewed it, it was so good. I said, you know what? This is great, and I just got to move on because no other game stands a chance. I just have to see how much they try to compete with Marvel Avengers. And so I said, see you later. We're not really going to cover this game anymore until there's news that I feel is worth talking about. And well, let's just say, without being hyperbolic, things are not looking too hot for Square Enix's Avengers. Now, this is not something I ever wanted to have happen to the game, but it was kind of telegraphed for a long while. But it's not all bad news. The game seems to be selling well, but we're going to be getting into a lot of information today, from player counts to the actual delays of content, sales numbers, and a new multiplayer mode that's recently dropped, comparatively speaking, that makes Avengers, Anthem, even Fallout 76 look real silly. So let's get it started diving into Avengers player base. Now, this is not definitive. This information comes from steamcharts.com, a site that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. They track the concurrent amount of players within the last 30 minutes, a 24-hour peak, as well as an all-time peak. This is just Steam. Do keep that in mind because I imagine PlayStation is probably the place where most of the Avengers player base is, given the exclusive content that's there. It was the #1 best-selling game on Amazon before it even came out, so I imagine a lot of people are over there playing, but I can't imagine the number is much higher than what we're seeing here on screen, which is 2,000 players tops. Now, some may say 2,000, not too bad, but look, the game just came out a month ago. It should be at least like 8 times higher than that. And for comparison's sake, I've brought a big kick between the legs here out. Let's talk about Fallout 76, which currently in the last half hour has had 7,000 players and an all-time peak of 32,000. But look, ladies and gentlemen, all I'm saying is Fallout 76, which is a multi-year-old game now. 2 years it's been. 2 years. I feel old. But anyway, 2 years. And this game has a higher player count than a game that just came out a month ago that has the Marvel brand attached to it. Obviously, I don't need to spell it out. Really not a good thing at all. But it also goes to show that, guess what? Consumers want quality products, right? Like, that is the big wow moment here for game companies. It's like, what? I just can't staple on a brand that people like? You can't just mindlessly buy this game? Well, maybe some people did because the game actually ended up performing quite well. According to MPD data, it was the best-selling game in September, right ahead of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which is saying quite a lot because that game sold stupidly well. It also beat out Madden NFL 21, the very popular Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It beat out NBA 2K21 in its launch month. Shout out to Crusader Kings, by the way. Never played the game, but it's awesome that this game is in the top 10. So to be totally blunt, this game is flopping, but it also sold really well. Now, I don't know if it's because of what I joked about earlier about actually slapping the brand on and that worked and it just couldn't keep players in because people bought it thinking, oh, Marvel, this should be good, and then it ended up being not that, and so people were like, okay, on to the next thing. Now, Crystal Dynamics, developers of Marvel Avengers, responded to this player-base dip, and I thought it was quite interesting because it seems they're aware of it, right? Now, I mentioned how we only saw the Steam numbers, but the way that they responded and how they did so, I feel like told us that things aren't looking good on their end, and they're looking for a way to get players back in. To our players, every day we fight to make the best game possible for our community. We have a number of new content pieces coming in the weeks ahead, including a totally new Warzone mission type called Tachyon Rifts, a new outpost that is a jumping off point for new story missions in the future, and AIM's cloning lab, which requires a coordinated high-level group of 4 players to beat with new top-end loot rewards for finishing it. And in each of these updates, we do tuning and bug fixing to enhance the overall experience. Lastly, we will continue to add new content to the game in the coming months as we address issues and overall game balance, including loot distribution and quality of life features everyone is clamoring for to improve our day-to-day experience, from accessibility to co-op communication tools to balancing the economy. So, sounds decent, right? Like, oh, they're adding new stuff in, right? This is all moving along smoothly. I'm sure it'll beef up the player base, right? Because these live service games naturally live and die on how much content they're adding and how consistently it's happening. I mean, why do you think Fortnite is still super relevant 3 years later, it's not just because people are streaming it a lot, it's because there's constantly new things being added to the game week in, week out. And so it's just sustaining people's interest constantly, and it's very hard to compete with something like that. So with Marvel Avengers, people are looking for new content already, which speaks to the length of its campaign, the poor attempt at an end game, and how much it truly needs help, and also needed more time in the oven to actually, complete the game and be bug free. So like I said, you're probably thinking, this doesn't sound too bad, but now a lot of updates are being delayed because the game is in such rough shape, and they can't. It's like Fallout 76. Remember when that game launched and it was in such a rough state that Bethesda needed to, get the game working, and then they started adding stuff in, and by the time they started adding stuff in, everyone was like, I don't care anymore. This game is on an identical path. You are probably getting deja vu right now if you watched my channel for a while, and it's kind of scary. We've made the decision to shift our PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S launch to next year to ensure that we give our team the time to deliver a next-gen experience, showcasing all that this game is meant to be. More details to come. Until then, however, you'll be able to continue playing the current-gen version on PS4 and Xbox One, Marvel's Avengers game on next-gen platforms to take advantage of their powerful hardware, be it via inserting a physical disc or re-downloading the game. Two of the most obvious benefits of this are the improved frame rates, which the game really needs, and the faster loading times, which it also really needs. In addition, players who make the jump to the PS5 or Xbox Series X/S will still be able to play co-op with their friends on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One respectively, as well as carry their existing save game forward to the next generation of consoles. So they've moved back the next gen version now. You can still play it. Let's say you're buying a PS5. I want to be extra clear here, even though we just read it. Let's say you buy a PS5 or a Series X, you got that disc, you can put it right in and it will play. It is fine. It is backwards compatible. It'll work fine and it'll run a little better, which is something the game, like I said, really needs. But what about actual content, right? What about that stuff? That got delayed too. Today, the studio went deeper into its plans for the game's future, beginning with the acknowledgement that the launch was not without turbulence, that's putting it lightly, and an apology for the problems that have plagued it thus far. It has also run down a list of community-driven features that are currently being worked on, which are expected out over the coming months. An Avengers Initiative ping system, reassemble campaign replay so you can actually play the story over again, high contrast mode, which is an accessibility feature, hero icon visibility, mission reward clarity, which improves the clarity around mission-specific rewards at the war table, and off-screen ranged enemy attack indicators. I don't know about you guys, but what is really going to pull me back in, absolutely, are those ranged attack indicators. I don't know about you guys, really, I don't know, but like for me, game changer. That player base is about to explode. Unfortunately, the focus on fixes and tuning has forced a slight delay to the Taking Aim DLC that will add Kate Bishop, aka Hawkeye, to the game. A date wasn't revealed, but Crystal Dynamics said that it won't be out in October as was planned. So once again, live service games really live and die off of how quickly things get out. That's not to say that this game can't have a resurgence. Fallout 76 did with Wastelanders, and it's enjoying a lot of success and positivity now because they took their time and actually did something that the community was pushing for a very long time. But point being, I'm not saying that Avengers is dead and gone, but it's in a really bad spot now. And I think it can battle out of it, but it starts with content. But as you see here, like I mentioned with 76, I just listed a bunch of quality of life enhancement. That's one of their first big updates, right? Things that could have been in the base game right off the bat that weren't because it got shoved out the door. So now the stuff that you were looking forward to, maybe Spider-Man if you're on PS4/5, or Kate Bishop, new missions, new story content, it's not here. It's being pushed back because the game didn't work off launch. Imagine if it came out a month later. And then we're talking, because then a month later, you've got the content you're looking for, which presumably would have been a little bit better. And what shines a spotlight on this, which makes it all the more worse, it's just convenient timing. It's kind of like what happened with the Outer Worlds and Fallout 76. See how these two really line up, 76 and Avengers? What happened here is we have the launch of Ghost of Tsushima Legends, which I actually streamed this past Friday with Kev Do It, with one of my buddies Soul, and it was an amazing time. There is content there, there's classes there, the co-op mode is fun, and best of all, it's free. There are features built into Ghost of Tsushima's multiplayer mode, which is not its main focus, by the way. It's the excellent single-player component. Ghost of Tsushima Legends is just the icing on the cake, and it works spectacularly well right off the bat. I downloaded the update and started playing within minutes after it had launched. It works well, it runs well, it matchmakes well, teaming up is easy, the modes are functional, there's a lot of content to dive into, tons of cosmetics. It's fantastic. And it blows my mind that Sucker Punch, a company that's really not known for multiplayer at all, who just launched a fantastic single player story with a great engrossing open world, is now doing an amazing multiplayer mode months later. Obviously, it was in development for a longer time. Months later, though, and it's beating out something like Avengers. And entirely free. No microtransactions. It is the beautiful multiplayer that a lot of us have dreamed of. And it's embarrassing for something like Avengers. It really is. So I wanted to go ahead and just cap it off with that. Some really healthy perspective here, I think. Look at Legends. Look at Avengers. Look at 76. Look at Avengers. There's a lot to really pick apart here. Now, I'm not praying for their failure. Like I said, the game's selling fine. There is a player base there. There's people that they can tap into later on, but they've got to get that content out the door. They've got to get the game fixed as soon as possible. I'm sure they're plenty aware of that, but the reality is it's going to be very, very difficult for them to accomplish such. So that'll do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Thank you to the patrons as well as all of the members on the channel who are supporting me, moving this show forward. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll talk with you soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.